What if I told you that the ancient Romans celebrated festivals so wild and bizarre that they make modern parties look tame? Picture this: a festival where masters served their slaves, another where people ran naked through the streets, and yet another where fish were thrown into bonfires to appease a fire god. These are just a few of the 25 forgotten festivals of ancient Rome, each with its own unique rituals, traditions, and stories that have been lost to time. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of Roman culture to uncover these fascinating celebrations that once defined their world. From the raucous feasts of Saturnalia to the eerie midnight rituals of Lemuria, these festivals reveal a side of Rome that's as mysterious as it is captivating. So, if you're ready to step back in time and explore the secrets of these ancient traditions, keep watching, because by the end of this video, you'll see Roman history in a whole new light. Let's get started. Now, let's step into the world of Saturnalia, one of the most famous and beloved festivals of ancient Rome. This celebration, held in mid-December, was dedicated to Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. Saturnalia was a time of joy, freedom, and a temporary suspension of the usual social order. Imagine a week-long party where the rigid hierarchies of Roman society were turned upside down. Masters served their slaves, and everyone, regardless of status, dined together at the same table. It was a rare moment of equality in a society built on strict class divisions. The festival began with a grand sacrifice at the temple of Saturn, followed by public banquets and private feasts that lasted for days. Streets were filled with laughter, music, and the exchange of small gifts like candles and figurines, symbolizing light and renewal. Gambling, usually forbidden, was allowed, and people wore colorful, informal clothing instead of their usual togas. But Saturnalia wasn't just about fun and games. It also had deep religious and cultural significance. The festival marked the end of the agricultural year and the winter solstice, a time when Romans looked forward to the return of longer days and the promise of a new harvest. The role reversals during Saturnalia were more than just a social experiment. They were a symbolic reminder of the golden age of Saturn, a mythical time when all people lived in harmony and abundance. Interestingly, many of Saturnalia's traditions have echoes in modern Christmas celebrations. The giving of gifts, the lighting of candles, and the emphasis on feasting and family gatherings all trace their roots back to this ancient Roman festival. Even the idea of a festive, joyful season in December can be linked to Saturnalia's influence on later cultures. So, as you celebrate the holidays this year, remember that some of your favorite traditions might have started with the Romans, who knew how to throw a party like no one else. Saturnalia wasn't just a festival, it was a cultural phenomenon that shaped the way we think about celebration, community, and the joy of coming together. And with that, let's move on to another fascinating Roman festival that's equally intriguing and full of surprises. Now, let's journey into the wild and mysterious world of Lupercalia, a festival that might just make you rethink everything you know about ancient Roman celebrations. Held every year on the 15th of February, Lupercalia was a festival steeped in strange rituals, primal energy, and a deep connection to fertility and purification. At the heart of Lupercalia were the Luperci, a group of priests who played a central role in the festivities. These men, often young and noble, would gather at the Lupercal, a cave on the Palatine Hill believed to be the very spot where the legendary she-wolf nursed Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome. The priests would begin the ceremony by sacrificing goats and a dog, animals symbolizing fertility and protection. But here's where things get truly bizarre. After the sacrifice, the priests would cut strips of skin from the animals, dip them in their blood, and then run through the streets of Rome, lightly whipping anyone they encountered, especially women. Far from being seen as an act of aggression, this ritual was believed to promote fertility and ease childbirth. Women would willingly line up to be struck, as it was thought to bring them good fortune and ensure healthy pregnancies. The festival's connection to wolves is equally fascinating. The name Lupercalia itself comes from lupus, the Latin word for wolf, and the rituals were deeply tied to the myth of Romulus and Remus. The wolf, a symbol of wildness and survival, was seen as a protector and a bringer of life. This primal energy infused the festival with a sense of raw, untamed power, making it one of the most unique celebrations in the Roman calendar. Over time, Lupercalia began to evolve, blending with other traditions and eventually transforming into something quite different. By the 5th century, as Christianity spread across the Roman Empire, the Church sought to replace pagan festivals with Christian holidays. Lupercalia's focus on fertility and love made it a natural candidate for transformation, and it gradually merged with the feast of Saint Valentine, a Christian martyr associated with love and romance. This transformation laid the groundwork for what we now know as Valentine's Day. While the blood-soaked rituals of Lupercalia are long gone, its spirit lives on in the modern celebration of love, flowers, and heartfelt messages. So, the next time you exchange chocolates or a card on February 14th, remember that the roots of this romantic holiday stretch all the way back to the wild, wolf-filled streets of ancient Rome. With Lupercalia behind us, let's turn our attention to another vibrant Roman festival, one that celebrated the beauty of nature and the promise of new beginnings. Now, let's step into the blooming world of Floralia, a festival that brought the vibrant colors and life of spring to the heart of ancient Rome. Celebrated from late April to early May, Floralia was dedicated to Flora, the goddess of flowers, plants, and fertility. This festival was a joyful ode to nature's renewal, filled with dazzling displays of flowers, lively performances, and a sense of exuberance that captured the spirit of the season. The streets of Rome would come alive with garlands, wreaths, and floral decorations, transforming the city into a living garden. People adorned themselves with flowers, and even animals were decorated with blossoms, creating a spectacle of color and fragrance. The festival was a sensory feast, with the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the sounds of music and laughter. One of the highlights of Floralia was its theatrical performances. Actors and performers took to the stage to present comedies, mimes, and other entertainments, often with themes of love, fertility, and the natural world. These performances were not just for amusement, they were deeply symbolic, reflecting the festival's focus on growth, renewal, and the cycles of life. Theatrical masks and costumes were often adorned with flowers, further tying the arts to the celebration of Flora. Another unique aspect of Floralia was its emphasis on fertility and abundance. The festival included rituals and offerings to Flora, asking for her blessings on crops, livestock, and families. Women played a prominent role in the celebrations, as Flora was also associated with female fertility and the protection of mothers. It was a time for communities to come together, celebrating the promise of new life and the bounty of the earth. But Floralia wasn't just about solemn rituals, it was also a time of revelry and freedom. The festival was known for its relaxed atmosphere, where social norms were temporarily set aside. People danced, sang, and celebrated late into the night, often with a sense of playful mischief. This carefree spirit made Floralia one of the most beloved festivals in the Roman calendar, a time when the city could shake off the weight of winter and embrace the joy of spring. As we leave the floral splendor of Floralia behind, let's move on to another fascinating festival, one that honored the pastoral roots of Rome and the simple yet profound connection between humans and the land. Now let's journey from the floral exuberance of Floralia to the rustic charm of Perilia, a festival deeply rooted in the pastoral traditions of ancient Rome. Celebrated on April 21st, Perilia was a day dedicated to purifying both the land and the people who worked it, particularly shepherds and farmers. This festival marked the founding of Rome, making it not only a celebration of agriculture but also a commemoration of the city's legendary origins. At its heart, Perilia was a festival of renewal and protection. Shepherds would gather to perform purification rituals aimed at safeguarding their flocks and ensuring a prosperous year ahead. One of the most striking features of the festival was the lighting of bonfires. These fires were more than just a source of warmth. They were believed to cleanse the air, the land, and even the animals. Shepherds would drive their flocks through the smoke of these fires, a symbolic act meant to ward off evil spirits and disease. The rituals of Floralia also included offerings to Pales, the deity of shepherds and livestock. Milk, millet, and other simple offerings were presented to honor Pales and seek their blessings. These acts of devotion were deeply personal, reflecting the close relationship between the rural communities and the divine forces they believed protected their livelihoods. But Floralia wasn't just about solemn rituals, it was also a time of communal celebration. After the purification ceremonies, people would come together to feast, dance, and enjoy the fruits of their labor. The festival fostered a sense of unity among those who worked the land, reminding them of their shared dependence on nature's bounty. Interestingly, Floralia also held a special place in the hearts of Romans as the day marking the founding of their city. According to legend, Romulus, the mythical founder of Rome, performed the first Floralia rituals, tying the festival to the very identity of Rome itself. This dual significance, both agricultural and historical, made Floralia a unique blend of the practical and the symbolic, a festival that honored the past while looking forward to the future. As we leave the pastoral world of Floralia behind, let's turn our attention to a festival that celebrated the strength and dignity of Roman women, a time when the matrons of Rome took center stage. Now, let's step into a celebration that shines a light on the women of ancient Rome, Saturnalia. This festival, held on the first day of March, was dedicated to Juno, the goddess of marriage and childbirth, and it was a day when Roman matrons were honored and celebrated for their vital roles in society. Saturnalia was more than just a religious observance. It was a heartfelt acknowledgement of the contributions of women to family and community life. On this day, married women received gifts from their husbands and families, a gesture of appreciation for their dedication and hard work. These gifts often included flowers, jewelry, and other tokens of affection, symbolizing the respect and love they commanded. The festival also had a deeply spiritual dimension. Women would visit the temples of Juno, offering prayers and sacrifices to seek her blessings for their marriages and the health of their children. Juno, as the protector of women, was seen as a divine figure who safeguarded the sanctity of marriage and ensured the well-being of mothers and their offspring. But Saturnalia wasn't just about solemn rituals. It was a day of joy and camaraderie among women. Female servants were given the day off, and mistresses would often prepare meals for them, reversing the usual roles in a gesture of goodwill and solidarity. This act of kindness highlighted the festival's emphasis on unity and mutual respect, transcending social hierarchies. The themes of Saturnalia, marriage, childbirth, and the role of women were central to Roman society. The festival underscored the importance of women as the backbone of the family, and by extension, the state. It was a reminder that the strength of Rome lay not just in its armies and politics, but also in the homes where women nurtured the next generation of citizens. As we move from the celebration of Roman matrons, let's explore a festival that takes us into the realm of the mysterious and the supernatural, where the living sought to appease the restless spirits of the dead. Now, let's shift our focus to a festival that takes us into the shadowy world of the supernatural Lemuria. Unlike the joyous celebrations we've explored so far, Lemuria was a somber and eerie event dedicated to appeasing the restless spirits of the dead. Held over 3 nights in mid-May, this festival was deeply rooted in the Roman belief that the spirits of the deceased could return to the world of the living, bringing misfortune if not properly honored. The rituals of Lemuria were as strange as they were fascinating. At the heart of the festival was a midnight ceremony performed by the head of the household. Barefoot and with a sense of solemnity, the paterfamilias would walk through the house, throwing black beans over his shoulder while reciting specific incantations. This act was believed to drive away malevolent spirits, with the beans symbolizing a form of spiritual payment or offering. The phrase, "With these beans I redeem me and mine," was repeated 9 times, emphasizing the ritual's protective purpose. But why beans? In Roman culture, beans were thought to possess a unique connection to the underworld, making them a fitting offering to the restless dead. After the beans were scattered, the household would clang pots and pans together, creating a loud noise to further scare away any lingering spirits. This combination of offerings and noise-making rituals highlights the Romans' practical yet deeply spiritual approach to dealing with the unseen world. Lemuria wasn't just about fear, though. It also reflected the Romans' respect for their ancestors and their desire to maintain harmony between the living and the dead. By honoring the spirits, they sought to ensure peace and protection for their families and communities. The festival served as a reminder of the thin veil between life and death, a concept that resonated deeply in Roman religious thought. As we leave the haunting rituals of Lemuria behind, let's turn our attention to a festival that shifts the tone entirely, focusing on the protection of crops and the agricultural lifeblood of ancient Rome. Moving from the eerie rituals of Lemuria, we now step into the world of agriculture and divine protection with the festival of Robigalia. Unlike the somber tones of appeasing spirits, Robigalia was a vibrant and practical celebration, deeply tied to the survival of Rome's crops. Held in late April, this festival was dedicated to Robigus, the god of crop protection, and its primary purpose was to ward off the dreaded blight that could devastate entire harvests. At the heart of Robigalia was a unique and somewhat unsettling ritual, the sacrifice of a red dog. The choice of a red dog was no accident. Red symbolized the destructive force of rust, a fungal disease that could turn healthy crops into withered, unusable plants. By offering a red dog to Robigus, the Romans believed they could appease the god and prevent the spread of this agricultural plague. The sacrifice was performed in a sacred grove along the Via Claudia, a road leading out of Rome where priests and farmers gathered to plead for the health of their fields. But Robigalia wasn't just about fear of crop failure. It was also a communal event that brought farmers together, reinforcing their shared reliance on the land and the gods. After the sacrifice, a procession would wind its way through the fields, with participants carrying offerings and chanting prayers for a bountiful harvest. This blend of ritual and practicality highlights the Romans' deep connection to agriculture and their belief in the divine forces that govern their livelihoods. Interestingly, Robigalia also reflects the Romans' understanding of the natural world. While they attributed crop diseases to the wrath of Robigus, their rituals show an early awareness of the need to protect and nurture the land. The festival served as both a spiritual plea and a practical reminder to care for the crops that sustained their society. As we leave the fields and the protective rituals of Robigalia behind, let's journey next to a festival that shifts our focus to the hearth and home, where the goddess Vesta was honored in one of Rome's most sacred celebrations. Now, as we turn our attention from the fields to the heart of Roman domestic life, we arrive at Vestalia, a festival that celebrated the very essence of home and community. Vestalia was dedicated to Vesta, the goddess of the hearth, fire, and home, and it was one of the most sacred and enduring festivals in the Roman calendar. Held in early June, this festival was a time to honor the goddess who symbolized the stability and warmth of the household, as well as the spiritual center of Rome itself. At the core of Vestalia was the Temple of Vesta, a circular shrine located in the Roman Forum. Unlike other temples, this one housed no statue of the goddess. Instead, it contained the sacred flame of Vesta, which was believed to represent the life and continuity of Rome. The flame was tended by the Vestal Virgins, a group of priestesses chosen for their purity and dedication. These women played a crucial role in Vestalia as they were responsible for maintaining the flame and performing the rituals that ensured the goddess's favor. One of the most important rituals of Vestalia was the thorough cleaning of the Temple of Vesta. This was no ordinary cleaning. It was a sacred act that symbolized the renewal of the city's spiritual and physical well-being. The Vestal virgins would sweep the temple floor, removing the ashes from the sacred fire, and prepare the space for new offerings. This act of purification was seen as essential for maintaining the harmony between the divine and the mortal realms. Another key element of Vestalia was the baking of sacred bread known as mola salsa. This bread was made from the first ears of wheat harvested each year, and it was used in various religious ceremonies throughout Rome. The Vestal virgins would grind the grain, mix it with sacred water, and bake the bread in the temple's hearth. This bread was then offered to Vesta as a symbol of gratitude and sustenance, reinforcing the connection between the goddess and the people she protected. Vestalia also had a unique aspect that set it apart from other festivals. It was a time when Roman women, particularly bakers and millers, were given a rare break from their daily labor. The mills and bakeries would close, and donkeys, which were used to grind grain, were adorned with garlands of flowers and loaves of bread. This pause in work allowed the community to reflect on the importance of the hearth and the role of women in maintaining the home and the city's spiritual health. The festival concluded with a solemn procession, during which the Vestal virgins carried offerings to the temple. This procession was a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of the Roman people, their gods, and the land that sustained them. Vestalia wasn't just a celebration of fire and bread. It was a celebration of the enduring bonds that held Roman society together. As we leave the warmth of Vesta's hearth behind, let's move forward to a festival that takes us into the realm of grain storage and a legendary tale of abduction where the god Consus takes center stage. Now, shifting our focus from the sacred hearth of Vesta to the granaries of ancient Rome, we arrive at Consualia, a festival that honored Consus, the god of grain storage. This festival, celebrated twice a year in August and December, was deeply rooted in the agricultural life of Rome, reflecting the importance of grain as a staple of survival and prosperity. But Consualia wasn't just about storing grain. It was also tied to one of the most dramatic and legendary events in Roman history, the abduction of the Sabine women. Consus was a somewhat mysterious deity often associated with the underground storage of grain, symbolizing the hidden wealth of the earth. His altar, located in the Circus Maximus, was buried beneath the ground and only uncovered during the festival. This act of revealing the altar was symbolic, representing the unveiling of stored resources and the blessings of abundance. The festival itself was marked by horse races, a fitting tribute to Consus, as horses were believed to be sacred to him. These races were not just entertainment, they were a way to honor the god and ensure his favor for the coming harvests. But what makes Consualia truly fascinating is its connection to the story of the Sabine women. According to legend, shortly after the founding of Rome, the city faced a severe shortage of women, threatening its future. Romulus, the city's founder, devised a plan to solve this problem. During the first Consualia, he invited the neighboring Sabine people to attend the festival. As the festivities unfolded, the Romans suddenly seized the Sabine women, an event that became known as the Rape of the Sabine Women. This act, though violent and controversial, was later justified in Roman mythology as a necessary step to ensure the survival and growth of the city. The story of the Sabine women became a central theme in Roman culture, symbolizing the blending of different peoples and the strength of unity. Over time, the abduction was reinterpreted as a tale of reconciliation, as the Sabine women eventually became wives and mothers of the Roman people, bridging the divide between the two communities. This narrative was often celebrated in art and literature, reinforcing the idea that Rome's greatness was built on the integration of diverse groups. Consualia, therefore, was more than just a festival of grain storage. It was a celebration of Rome's origins and its ability to overcome challenges through ingenuity and unity. The festival's rituals, from the uncovering of Consus's altar to the lively horse races, served as reminders of the city's agricultural roots and its legendary past. As we move from the granaries and the tales of the Sabine women, let's journey next to the waters of Rome, where we'll explore Neptunalia, a festival dedicated to Neptune, the god of the sea, and his role in the lives of the ancient Romans. Now, as we leave the dusty granaries and the tales of the Sabine women behind, let's dive into the refreshing waters of Neptunalia, a festival that brought the ancient Romans closer to the sea and its mighty ruler Neptune. Celebrated during the sweltering heat of July, Neptunalia was a time to honor Neptune, the god of the sea, rivers, and freshwater springs, and to seek his blessings for protection against droughts and the scorching summer sun. Neptune was a powerful and revered deity, often depicted with his iconic trident, symbolizing his dominion over the waters. For a civilization that relied heavily on agriculture and trade, water was not just a resource, it was life itself. Neptunalia served as a reminder of the sea's dual nature, both a source of bounty and a force of destruction. The festival was a way to appease Neptune, ensuring calm seas for sailors and abundant water for crops during the dry season. The celebrations were centered around water in all its forms. Romans would gather near rivers, lakes, or the coast to participate in rituals and festivities. Temporary shelters made of branches and leaves, known as umbri, were constructed along the banks, providing shade for feasting and socializing. These leafy structures were not just practical, they symbolized the connection between land and water, a theme central to the festival. One of the key rituals of Neptunalia involved offerings to Neptune. Romans would throw small sacrifices, such as grains or flowers, into the water as a gesture of gratitude and supplication. These offerings were meant to honor the god and seek his favor for the coming months. Additionally, water-related games and competitions were held, including swimming races and boat contests, adding a lively and communal spirit to the festivities. Neptunalia also had a deeper, more symbolic meaning. Water in Roman culture was often associated with purification and renewal. The festival provided an opportunity for Romans to reflect on the importance of water in their lives, not just as a physical necessity but as a spiritual force. By honoring Neptune, they acknowledged their dependence on the natural world and the need to live in harmony with it. As the sun set on Neptunalia, the Romans would return to their homes, refreshed and reassured by the rituals they had performed. The festival was a brief but meaningful pause in the heat of summer, a time to celebrate the life-giving power of water and to seek Neptune's protection for the months ahead. With the waves of Neptunalia still echoing in our minds, let's now turn our attention to the harvest season and the festival of Opoconcivia, where we'll explore how the Romans honored Ops, the goddess of abundance, and ensured a bountiful harvest for their people. As we step away from the shimmering waters of Neptunalia, let's journey into the heart of the Roman harvest season with Opoconcivia, a festival dedicated to Ops, the goddess of abundance and prosperity. Celebrated in late August, Opoconcivia marked a critical moment in the agricultural calendar, as Romans sought to secure a bountiful harvest and give thanks for the earth's generosity. Ops, whose name means wealth or plenty, was revered as the guardian of the harvest and the protector of stored grain. For a society deeply dependent on agriculture, her blessings were essential to survival. The festival was a time to honor her role in ensuring that the hard work of planting and tending crops would be rewarded with abundance. The rituals of Opoconcivia were deeply rooted in the rhythms of rural life. Farmers and their families would gather in the fields and granaries, offering prayers and sacrifices to Ops. One of the most significant ceremonies took place in the Regia, the ancient royal residence in Rome, where the Vestal Virgins performed sacred rites. They would prepare a special offering of grain, symbolizing the fruits of the earth, and place it on Op's altar. This act was not just a gesture of gratitude, but also a plea for her continued favor in the coming year. A unique feature of Oppa Convivia was its focus on the storage of grain. Romans believed that Ops watched over their granaries, ensuring that the harvest would last through the winter months. To honor this aspect of her divinity, they would clean and bless their storage spaces, often decorating them with flowers and wreaths. This practice underscored the importance of careful planning and stewardship, values that were central to Roman agricultural life. The festival also had a communal dimension. After the rituals, families and neighbors would come together to share a feast made from the first fruits of the harvest. Bread, wine, and freshly harvested produce were enjoyed in abundance, symbolizing the prosperity that Ops had bestowed. These gatherings reinforced social bonds and celebrated the collective effort that went into cultivating the land. Beyond its practical significance, Oppa Convivia carried a deeper spiritual meaning. It reminded Romans of their connection to the earth and the cycles of nature. By honoring Ops, they acknowledged their dependence on the land and the need to live in harmony with it. The festival was a moment of reflection, gratitude, and hope, a time to celebrate the present harvest while looking forward to the promise of future abundance. As the sun set on Oppa Convivia, the Romans would return to their homes, their granaries filled and their hearts grateful. The festival was a testament to the enduring importance of agriculture in Roman life and the vital role of Ops in ensuring their prosperity. Now, as we leave the fields and granaries behind, let's turn our attention to the fiery world of Valentine, where we'll explore how the Romans honored Vulcan, the god of fire, and sought his protection against the destructive power of flames. As we move from the fertile fields of Oppa Convivia, let's step into the fiery realm of Valentine, a festival that brought Romans face to face with one of their most powerful and unpredictable gods. Vulcan, the deity of fire, volcanoes, and metalworking. Celebrated on the 23rd of August, Valentine was a day to honor Vulcan's dual nature, a force of creation and destruction. Fire, after all, could forge tools and weapons, but it could also reduce homes and crops to ash. This festival was a way for the Romans to seek his favor and protection, ensuring that his fiery power would be a blessing rather than a curse. The rituals of Valentine were as unique as they were symbolic. One of the most striking traditions involved throwing live fish into bonfires as offerings to Vulcan. This act might seem strange to us today, but for the Romans it carried deep meaning. Fish, as creatures of water, represented the element that could quench fire. By sacrificing them, the Romans hoped to appease Vulcan and prevent destructive fires, especially during the hot, dry summer months when the risk was highest. But Valentine wasn't just about averting disaster. It was also a celebration of Vulcan's creative power. As the god of metalworking, he was revered by blacksmiths, artisans, and soldiers who relied on his skill to craft weapons and tools. On this day, workshops and forges would close, and workers would gather to honor Vulcan with prayers and small offerings. These rituals acknowledged the vital role of fire in shaping Roman civilization, from the swords that defended the empire to the plows that tilled its fields. The festival also had a communal aspect. Families would light small fires in their homes, not just as offerings but as a way to connect with Vulcan's energy. These flames symbolized both the warmth of the hearth and the destructive potential of fire, reminding Romans of the delicate balance they needed to maintain. Public ceremonies were held in Vulcan's temple, located near the Circus Maximus, where priests performed sacred rites to ensure the god's favor. Valentine also carried a deeper spiritual message. It was a reminder of humanity's relationship with the natural world and the forces that could both sustain and destroy life. By honoring Vulcan, the Romans acknowledged their dependence on fire's power while seeking to control its more dangerous aspects. The festival was a blend of reverence, caution, and gratitude, a testament to the complexity of Roman religious life. As the flames of Vulcanalia died down, the Romans would return to their daily lives, their prayers for protection and prosperity carried on the smoke of the bonfires. This fiery festival was a vivid reminder of the power of the gods and the need to live in harmony with the forces of nature. Now, as we leave the heat of Vulcanalia behind, let's turn our attention to a lesser-known but equally fascinating festival, Saturnalia, where the Romans celebrated the healing power of wine and its role in their culture. Now, as we step away from the fiery intensity of Vulcanalia, let's immerse ourselves in the soothing and rejuvenating world of Saturnalia, a festival that celebrated the healing and transformative powers of wine. Held on the 11th of October, Saturnalia was a day dedicated to both physical and spiritual renewal, with wine playing a central role in its rituals and symbolism. For the ancient Romans, wine was far more than just a beverage. It was a sacred gift from the gods, a symbol of life, vitality, and healing. Saturnalia took its name from the Latin word medere, meaning to heal, and it was a time to honor the restorative properties of wine, both for the body and the soul. The festival was deeply tied to the agricultural cycle, marking the end of the grape harvest and the beginning of the new wine season. It was a moment to reflect on the past year's labors and to seek blessings for the year ahead. The rituals of Saturnalia were simple yet profound. Romans would gather to taste the new wine, often mixed with the old, in a symbolic act of blending the past and the future. This practice was believed to promote health and longevity, as the combination of old and new wines represented the continuity of life and the renewal of strength. Participants would offer prayers to the gods, asking for protection against illness and for the vitality to face the coming winter months. Wine, in Roman culture, was also seen as a bridge between the mortal and divine realms. It was often used in religious ceremonies as an offering to the gods, and its intoxicating effects were thought to bring people closer to the divine. During Saturnalia, this connection was especially emphasized. The festival was a reminder of the delicate balance between indulgence and moderation, as the Romans believed that wine, when consumed wisely, could heal and uplift, but when abused, could lead to chaos and harm. Beyond its spiritual significance, Saturnalia also highlighted the practical importance of wine in Roman society. Wine was a staple of the Roman diet, valued not only for its taste but also for its medicinal properties. It was used to treat wounds, cleanse water, and even as a remedy for digestive ailments. The festival served as a celebration of this versatile and life-giving substance, acknowledging its role in both daily life and sacred rituals. Saturnalia also carried a deeper message about the cycles of life and the importance of renewal. Just as the grapevine sheds its leaves in autumn only to bloom again in spring, the festival reminded the Romans of the need to let go of the old and embrace the new. It was a time to cleanse the body and spirit, to reflect on the past, and to prepare for the future with hope and resilience. As the last drops of wine were poured in honor of the gods, the Romans would leave Saturnalia with a sense of renewal and gratitude. This lesser-known festival was a testament to their appreciation for the healing power of nature and their belief in the interconnectedness of health, spirituality, and community. With the spirit of Saturnalia still lingering, let's now turn our attention to another fascinating celebration, Fontinalia, where the Romans honored the life-giving waters that sustained their world. Now, as we leave the healing embrace of Saturnalia, let's flow into the refreshing currents of Fontinalia, a festival that celebrated the life-giving waters essential to Roman life. Held on the 13th of October, Fontinalia was dedicated to Fons, the god of springs and wells, and it was a time to honor the vital role that water played in sustaining both the land and its people. Water, for the Romans, was more than just a resource. It was a sacred force, a symbol of purity, renewal, and abundance. Fontinalia was a celebration of this precious element, and its rituals were deeply tied to the natural springs and wells that dotted the Roman landscape. These sources of water were seen as gifts from the gods, and the festival was a way to express gratitude for their life-sustaining power. The most distinctive ritual of Saturnalia involved decorating fountains, springs, and wells with flowers and garlands. Romans would gather at these sacred sites, adorning them with vibrant blooms as offerings to fauns. This act was not just decorative, it was a symbolic gesture of reverence, acknowledging the divine presence in the flowing waters. The flowers, often chosen for their beauty and fragrance, represented the fertility and vitality that water brought to the land. In addition to decorating water sources, Romans would also offer prayers and libations to fauns, pouring wine or water into the springs as a sign of respect and devotion. These offerings were believed to ensure the continued flow of clean, abundant water, which was essential for agriculture, daily life, and religious ceremonies. The festival also served as a reminder of the interconnectedness of nature and the divine, as the Romans saw the god's hand in every bubbling spring and flowing stream. Saturnalia was not just a religious observance, it was also a communal event that brought people together. Families and neighbors would gather at local springs or wells, sharing food, stories, and laughter as they celebrated the blessings of water. This sense of community was central to the festival, as it reinforced the idea that water was a shared resource, vital to the well-being of all. Beyond its immediate rituals, Saturnalia carried a deeper message about the importance of stewardship and gratitude. The Romans understood that water was a finite resource, and the festival encouraged them to care for their springs and wells, ensuring their purity and availability for future generations. It was a time to reflect on the balance between human needs and the natural world, and to honor the divine forces that sustained both. As the petals of the flowers floated gently on the surface of the water, the Romans would leave Saturnalia with a renewed appreciation for the simple yet profound gift of water. This festival, though lesser known today, was a testament to their reverence for nature and their understanding of the sacred in the everyday. With the echoes of Saturnalia still rippling through our journey, let's now step into the world of Saturnalia, a festival that celebrated the gods through unique and intriguing sacrificial rituals. Now, as we step away from the flowing waters of Saturnalia, let's turn our attention to the intriguing and multifaceted festival of Saturnalia. Unlike many Roman festivals tied to a single date or deity, Saturnalia was celebrated multiple times throughout the year, each time honoring a different god. This recurring festival was a testament to the Romans' deep connection with their pantheon and their commitment to maintaining divine favor through ritual and sacrifice. Saturnalia was primarily dedicated to Janus, the two-faced god of beginnings and transitions, but it also honored other deities like Jupiter, Mars, and even Vediovis, a lesser-known god associated with healing and protection. The festival's name, Saturnalia, is thought to derive from the Latin word agonium, meaning a solemn offering, which perfectly captures the essence of its rituals. At the heart of these ceremonies was the sacrifice of a ram, an act imbued with deep symbolic meaning. The sacrificial ram was chosen with great care as it represented purity and strength. The animal was led to the altar where a priest, often dressed in traditional robes, would perform the ritual. The offering was made not just to appease the gods but to seek their blessings for the community's prosperity, health, and success. The ram's blood, considered sacred, was carefully collected and used in purification rites, while its meat was sometimes shared among the participants in a communal feast, reinforcing the bond between the divine and the mortal. What makes Saturnalia particularly fascinating is its adaptability. Depending on the time of year and the god being honored, the festival's focus and rituals could shift. For example, when celebrated in honor of Janus in January, it marked the beginning of the new year and sought divine guidance for the months ahead. In March, when dedicated to Mars, the god of war, the festival took on a more martial tone with prayers for victory and protection in battle. The recurring nature of Saturnalia also highlights the Romans' belief in the cyclical nature of time and the importance of regular devotion. By celebrating the festival multiple times a year, they reaffirmed their commitment to the gods and their reliance on divine intervention in both personal and communal matters. As we reflect on Saturnalia, it's clear that this festival was more than just a series of rituals. It was a profound expression of the Romans' worldview. It underscored their belief in the interconnectedness of the human and divine realms and their understanding of sacrifice as a means of maintaining balance and harmony. With the echoes of Saturnalia's solemn offerings still lingering, let's now journey into the world of Saturnalia, a festival that celebrated the boundaries, both physical and symbolic, that defined Roman life. Now, as we leave the cyclical rhythms of Saturnalia behind, let's step into the world of Saturnalia, a festival that celebrated the very fabric of Roman society boundaries. Saturnalia, dedicated to Terminus, the god of boundaries, was a unique celebration that honored the physical and symbolic lines that defined property, relationships, and even the Roman state itself. Terminus, often depicted as a simple stone or boundary marker, was a deity who embodied the importance of limits and order. The Romans believed that respecting these boundaries was essential for maintaining harmony, both in their personal lives and within the broader community. Saturnalia, celebrated on the 23rd of February, was a day when Romans came together to reaffirm these boundaries, ensuring that the lines between neighbors, families, and even territories remained clear and respected. The rituals of Saturnalia were deeply rooted in the everyday lives of the Romans. Families would gather at the boundary markers of their properties, often simple stones or posts, and decorate them with garlands of flowers and wreaths. Offerings of cakes, wine, and grain were made to Terminus, accompanied by prayers for his protection and blessings. These acts were not just symbolic, they were a practical way to prevent disputes and foster goodwill among neighbors. One of the most fascinating aspects of Saturnalia was its communal nature. Neighbors would often come together to celebrate, sharing in the rituals and feasting that followed. This sense of unity and cooperation was central to the festival's purpose, as it reinforced the idea that boundaries, while necessary, should not divide people but rather bring them together in mutual respect. The festival also had a broader significance for the Roman state. The temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill was said to house a sacred boundary stone dedicated to Terminus. According to legend, when the temple was being built, the stone refused to be moved, symbolizing the eternal and unbreakable nature of Rome's boundaries. This story highlights the deep connection between Saturnalia and the Roman identity, as the festival served as a reminder of the stability and permanence of the state. Saturnalia's focus on boundaries extended beyond the physical. It also emphasized the importance of moral and social limits, encouraging Romans to live within the bounds of law, tradition, and propriety. In this way, the festival was not just about marking property lines, but about upholding the values that held Roman society together. As we reflect on Saturnalia, it's clear that this festival was more than just a celebration of boundaries. It was a profound expression of the Roman commitment to order, respect, and community. With the echoes of Saturnalia's rituals still fresh in our minds, let's now turn our attention to Saturnalia, a festival that honored one of Rome's most legendary figures and explored the city's founding myths. Now, as we move from the grounded rituals of Saturnalia, let's ascend to the heights of Roman mythology with Saturnalia, a festival that pays tribute to Quirinus, a deity deeply intertwined with the legendary origins of Rome itself. Quirinus, often regarded as the deified form of Romulus, the city's mythical founder, held a special place in the hearts of the Romans. This festival, celebrated on the 17th of February, was not just a religious observance but a celebration of Rome's very identity and its storied beginnings. Quirinus was more than just a god, he was a symbol of Rome's divine destiny. According to legend, after Romulus mysteriously disappeared during a thunderstorm, he was said to have ascended to the heavens and transformed into Quirinus. This apotheosis or deification cemented Romulus's legacy as both a mortal hero and an immortal protector of Rome. Quirinalia, therefore, was a festival that honored this dual legacy, blending the historical and the mythical in a way that only the Romans could. The rituals of Quirinalia were deeply rooted in the founding myths of Rome. The festival took its name from the Quirinal Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome, where a temple dedicated to Quirinus stood. This hill was not just a geographical landmark, but a sacred space that connected the Romans to their origins. During the festival, offerings of grain, wine, and incense were made to Quirinus, accompanied by prayers for the continued prosperity and protection of the city. One of the most intriguing aspects of Quirinalia was its connection to the broader Roman calendar. The festival fell on the same day as the Fornicalia, a movable feast celebrating ovens and baking, which we'll explore later. This overlap was no coincidence. It reflected the Romans' belief in the interconnectedness of their religious and civic lives. Quirinalia was not just about honoring a god, it was about reaffirming the values and traditions that made Rome great. The festival also had a communal dimension. Citizens would gather to share in the rituals and festivities, reinforcing their collective identity as Romans. This sense of unity was central to Quirinalia's purpose, as it reminded the people of their shared heritage and the divine favor that had guided their city from its humble beginnings to its status as a world power. Quirinalia's significance extended beyond its religious aspects. It was a celebration of Rome's founding principles: strength, unity, and divine favor. By honoring Quirinus, the Romans were not just paying tribute to a god, they were celebrating the very essence of what it meant to be Roman. As we leave the sacred heights of the Quirinal Hill and the echoes of Quirinalia behind, let's turn our attention to Fornicalia, a festival that brought Romans together in a celebration of community and the simple joys of daily life. Now, shifting our focus from the divine heights of Quirinalia, let's step into the warmth of the hearth and explore Fornicalia, a festival that brought Romans together in a celebration of something far more grounded yet equally vital: community and the art of baking. Unlike many of the fixed-date festivals in the Roman calendar, Fornicalia was movable, its timing determined by the curiae or local districts, which added a unique flexibility to its observance. This festival, dedicated to the goddess Fornax, the divine protector of ovens and baking, was a testament to the Romans' appreciation for the everyday rituals that sustained their lives. Fornicalia was more than just a celebration of bread and ovens. It was a festival that highlighted the importance of communal bonds. Each curia would set its own date for the festival, allowing families and neighbors to come together in their local districts to honor Fornax. The rituals were simple yet meaningful. Romans would offer grain to the goddess, praying for her blessing to ensure their ovens worked perfectly and their bread turned out well. This act of offering was not just about seeking divine favor. It was a way of acknowledging the hard work of farmers, millers, and bakers who kept the city fed. The festival also had a practical side. It was a time for communities to come together and share in the fruits of their labor. Families would bake bread, often using the first grains of the season, and distribute it among their neighbors. This act of sharing was symbolic of the interconnectedness of Roman society. In a city as vast and diverse as Rome, Fornicalia served as a reminder that even the simplest acts like baking bread could strengthen the bonds between people. One of the most fascinating aspects of Fornicalia was its connection to the broader Roman calendar. As we mentioned earlier, it often coincided with Quirinalia, creating a unique overlap between the sacred and the everyday. While Quirinalia celebrated Rome's divine origins, Fornicalia grounded those lofty ideals in the tangible realities of daily life. Together, these festivals reflected the Romans' ability to balance the spiritual and the practical, the grand and the humble. Fornicalia's emphasis on community and shared labor also had a deeper cultural significance. In a society where social hierarchies were rigidly defined, this festival offered a rare moment of equality. Rich and poor alike participated in the rituals, sharing bread and celebrating the simple joys of life. This egalitarian spirit was a subtle yet powerful reminder of the values that held Roman society together: cooperation, gratitude, and mutual respect. As we move from the communal warmth of Fornicalia, let's turn our attention to Equeria, a festival that took Romans out of their kitchens and into the open fields, where the thunder of hooves and the spirit of competition awaited. Now let's gallop into the world of Equeria, a festival that brought the thunder of hooves and the spirit of competition to the heart of ancient Rome. Dedicated to Mars, the god of war, Equeria was a vibrant celebration that combined athleticism, religious devotion, and military preparation. Held twice a year, once in February and again in March, this festival marked the beginning and end of the military campaigning season, making it a crucial event in the Roman calendar. The name Equeria itself comes from the Latin word for horse, equus, and the festival's centerpiece was a series of thrilling horse races held in the Campus Martius, the Field of Mars. This open space, located just outside the city walls, was a fitting venue for a festival honoring the god of war. The races were not just entertainment, they were deeply symbolic. Horses, as symbols of speed, strength, and agility, were seen as essential companions in battle, and the races served as a way to honor Mars while also showcasing the skills of both riders and steeds. But Equeria was more than just a sporting event. It was a time for Romans to reflect on the importance of military readiness. The festival's timing was no coincidence. The February Equeria, held on the 27th day of the month, signaled the approaching start of the campaigning season, while the March Equeria, held on the 14th, marked its conclusion. These dates framed a period when Roman soldiers would leave their homes to defend the empire, making Equeria a poignant reminder of the sacrifices and responsibilities of war. The rituals of Equeria were steeped in tradition. Before the races began, priests would offer sacrifices to Mars, seeking his favor for the upcoming campaigns. The races themselves were fierce and competitive, with participants vying for glory and the approval of the gods. Winning was seen as a sign of divine favor, and victors were celebrated not just for their skill but for the blessings they brought to Rome. Interestingly, Equeria also had a connection to the broader Roman calendar. The February Equeria was closely linked to the festival of February, a time of purification and renewal. Together, these festivals created a powerful narrative of preparation, both physical and spiritual, for the challenges ahead. The March Equeria, on the other hand, coincided with the Saturnalia, a festival honoring Juno and Roman matrons. This juxtaposition highlighted the dual roles of Romans as warriors and family members, underscoring the balance between duty and domestic life. Equeria's emphasis on horses and racing also had a deeper cultural significance. In a society where military prowess was highly valued, the festival served as a reminder of the skills and discipline required for success on the battlefield. It was a time for Romans to come together, not just to watch races but to reaffirm their commitment to the defense of their city and empire. As we leave the excitement of Equeria behind, let's turn our attention to Tubilustrium, a festival that shifted the focus from the thunder of hooves to the cleansing of sacred instruments, marking another step in Rome's preparation for the year ahead. Now, as the echoes of horse hooves fade, we step into the quieter yet equally significant world of Tubilustrium, a festival that turned the spotlight from the battlefield to the sacred instruments of Roman religious and military life. Held on the 23rd day of March, Tubilustrium was a day of purification, a time to cleanse and honor the tools that played a vital role in both worship and warfare. At its heart, Tubilustrium was about preparation not just for the physical demands of war, but for the spiritual harmony that Romans believed was essential for success. The festival's name comes from the Latin words tubi, meaning trumpets, and lustrare, meaning to purify. And that's exactly what this day was all about. the purification of trumpets, horns, and other sacred instruments used in religious ceremonies and military signals. These instruments were far more than mere tools. They were symbols of order and communication. In religious rituals, trumpets and horns were used to call the gods and mark the beginning of sacred rites. On the battlefield, they directed troops, signaling advances, retreats, and other critical maneuvers. The Romans believed that keeping these instruments pure and blessed was essential for maintaining the favor of the gods and ensuring victory in battle. The rituals of tubilustrium were both solemn and practical. Priests would gather in the sacred space known as the atrium sutorium, where they performed cleansing ceremonies on the instruments. This involved washing them with water, anointing them with oils, and offering prayers to Mars, the god of war, and other deities associated with protection and victory. The act of purification was seen as a way to remove any spiritual impurities that might hinder the instrument's effectiveness, whether in worship or warfare. But tubilustrium wasn't just about the instruments themselves. It was also a time for the people who used them. Soldiers and priests alike participated in the rituals, reaffirming their roles as protectors of Rome and intermediaries between the mortal and divine realms. The festival served as a reminder that success in war and life depended not just on physical strength, but on spiritual readiness and divine favor. Interestingly, tubilustrium also marked the end of a series of festivals dedicated to Mars, including Equaria and the earlier Saturnalia. Together, these celebrations created a narrative arc that moved from preparation and purification to action and reflection. Tubilustrium, with its focus on cleansing and renewal, was the final step in this process, ensuring that both the instruments and the people who wielded them were ready for the challenges ahead. As we leave the rituals of tubilustrium behind, we move toward armilustrium, a festival that would bring this cycle of preparation and purification to its conclusion, marking the end of the military campaigning season and the beginning of a new phase in the Roman year. As the rituals of tubilustrium fade into memory, we now turn our attention to armilustrium, a festival that brought the military campaigning season to a solemn and symbolic close. Held on the 19th day of October, armilustrium was a time for reflection, purification, and preparation for the quieter months ahead. At its core, armilustrium was about honoring the tools of war and the soldiers who wielded them. The festival's name comes from the Latin words armor, meaning weapons, and lustrare, meaning to purify. This day was dedicated to cleansing and blessing the weapons that had seen Rome through another season of conflict. But it wasn't just about the physical act of cleaning. It was a spiritual ritual, a way to thank the gods for their protection and to ensure that the weapons remained effective in the battles to come. The rituals of armilustrium were deeply symbolic. Soldiers would gather in the sacred space known as the armilustrium, located on the Aventine Hill. Here, they would lay down their weapons, swords, shields, and spears, and participate in ceremonies led by priests. These rituals involved washing the weapons with water, anointing them with sacred oils, and offering prayers to Mars, the god of war, and other deities associated with victory and protection. The act of purification was seen as a way to remove any spiritual taint that might have accumulated during the fighting season, ensuring that the weapons remained potent and blessed. But armilustrium wasn't just about the weapons, it was also about the soldiers themselves. The festival served as a moment of transition, marking the end of active campaigning and the beginning of a period of rest and reflection. Soldiers would take part in communal feasts, sharing stories of their experiences and honoring fallen comrades. It was a time to celebrate victories, mourn losses, and reaffirm their commitment to Rome and its gods. Interestingly, armilustrium also had a broader cultural significance. It was a reminder that war, while necessary, was not an endless endeavor. The festival emphasized the importance of balance between action and rest, between conflict and peace. By purifying their weapons and themselves, the soldiers were preparing not just for future battles but for the quieter, more reflective aspects of life. As we leave the rituals of Armilustrium behind, we move toward Carmentalia, a festival that shifts our focus from the battlefield to the home, celebrating the goddess of childbirth and prophecy. This transition from war to domestic life highlights the Romans' belief in the interconnectedness of all aspects of their world, from the battlefield to the hearth. Now, as we step away from the battlefield and into the heart of Roman domestic life, we encounter Carmentalia, a festival that shines a light on the sacred role of women in ancient Roman society. Celebrated on the 11th and 15th of January, Carmentalia was dedicated to Carmenta, the goddess of childbirth and prophecy, and it offered a unique glimpse into the Romans' reverence for motherhood, health, and the divine guidance that shaped their lives. Carmenta was no ordinary deity. She was believed to possess the power of foresight, offering prophecies that could guide individuals and the state alike. Her connection to childbirth made her a central figure in the lives of Roman women who sought her blessings for safe deliveries and healthy children. The festival of Carmentalia was a time to honor her dual role as both a protector of women and a source of divine wisdom. The rituals of Carmentalia were deeply personal and communal. Women, especially expectant mothers, would gather at Carmenta's temple, located near the Porta Carmentalis, one of Rome's ancient gates. Here, they would offer prayers, sacrifices, and gifts to the goddess, seeking her favor and protection. The offerings often included flowers, fruits, and small tokens of gratitude, symbolizing the hope for fertility and the continuation of family lines. One of the most striking aspects of Carmentalia was its emphasis on women's health. The festival included rituals aimed at ensuring the well-being of mothers and their unborn children. Priests and priestesses would perform ceremonies to cleanse and bless the women, invoking Carmenta's power to safeguard them during childbirth. These rituals were not just about physical health, but also about spiritual and emotional strength, reflecting the Romans' holistic approach to well-being. Interestingly, Carmentalia also had a broader cultural significance. It was a reminder of the vital role women played in Roman society, not just as mothers, but as bearers of tradition and continuity. The festival celebrated the strength and resilience of women, acknowledging their contributions to the family and the state. It was a time to reflect on the interconnectedness of life, from the birth of a child to the prosperity of the community. As we move from the intimate rituals of Carmentalia, we prepare to explore Lupercalia, a festival that shifts our focus to the coming of age of Roman boys and the celebration of freedom and fertility. This transition from the sacred space of women to the broader themes of growth and renewal underscores the Romans' belief in the cyclical nature of life and the importance of honoring every stage of the human experience. Now, as we turn our attention from the sacred celebrations of women to the vibrant rites of passage for young men, we arrive at Lupercalia, a festival that marked a pivotal moment in the lives of Roman boys. Held on the 17th of March, Lupercalia was dedicated to Liber, the god of fertility, wine, and freedom, and it served as a joyous celebration of growth, maturity, and the transition into adulthood. Lupercalia was more than just a festival, it was a cultural milestone. For Roman boys, this was the day they officially shed their childhood and stepped into the responsibilities of manhood. The ceremony began with the boys removing their childhood togas, known as the toga praetexta, which was adorned with a purple border symbolizing youth. In its place, they donned the plain white toga virilis, a garment that signified their new status as adult citizens. This act was deeply symbolic, representing not only a personal transformation, but also their readiness to contribute to the social and political life of Rome. The festival was a lively affair filled with music, dancing, and of course wine. Liber, the god at the heart of the celebration, was not only associated with fertility, but also with the joy and liberation that wine brought to Roman life. His consort, Libera, was also honored during the festivities, emphasizing the balance between male and female energies in the cycle of growth and renewal. One of the most intriguing aspects of Lupercalia was its connection to agriculture and the natural world. Liber was often depicted with a cornucopia, a symbol of abundance, and the festival coincided with the spring planting season. This timing reinforced the idea of renewal, both in the fields and in the lives of the young men being celebrated. Families would offer sacrifices of cakes, honey, and wine to Liber, praying for a bountiful harvest and the continued prosperity of their sons. The coming-of-age rituals of Lupercalia also had a communal dimension. The boys, now recognized as adults, would participate in public processions accompanied by their families and friends. These processions were not just a display of pride, but also a way to integrate the young men into the broader fabric of Roman society. It was a moment of unity where the community came together to celebrate the next generation and the promise they held for the future. As we reflect on the vibrant energy of Lupercalia, we are reminded of the Romans' deep appreciation for the cycles of life and the importance of marking each stage with reverence and joy. This festival, with its blend of personal transformation and communal celebration, offers a fascinating glimpse into how the ancient Romans honored growth, freedom, and the enduring spirit of renewal. Next, we will explore Saturnalia, a festival that shifts our focus from the exuberance of youth to the solemn remembrance of ancestors, highlighting the Romans' profound respect for their past and the bonds that connected generations. Now, as we transition from the lively celebrations of youth to a more reflective and solemn occasion, we arrive at Saturnalia, a festival that underscores the Romans' deep reverence for their ancestors. Unlike the exuberant festivals we've explored so far, Saturnalia was a time of quiet remembrance, a period when the living honored the dead and reaffirmed the bonds that connected generations. Saturnalia, which began on the 13th of February and lasted for 9 days, was a deeply personal and communal event. Families would gather at the tombs of their ancestors, bringing offerings of flowers, wine, and food. These simple yet heartfelt gestures were meant to nourish the spirits of the departed, ensuring their continued favor and protection. The Romans believed that the dead remained an integral part of the family, and neglecting these rituals could bring misfortune or even the wrath of the ancestors. One of the most striking aspects of Saturnalia was its emphasis on continuity. The festival was not just about remembering the past, but also about reinforcing the family's legacy for the future. By honoring their ancestors, Romans acknowledged the sacrifices and achievements of those who came before them, drawing strength and inspiration for their own lives. This connection between past, present, and future was a cornerstone of Roman identity, and Saturnalia served as a powerful reminder of that enduring bond. During this period, temples across Rome were closed and public activities were suspended. The city took on a subdued atmosphere as people turned their attention inward to focus on their families and the memories of those they had lost. Even the Vestal Virgins, the priestesses of Vesta, played a role in the festival, offering special prayers and sacrifices to ensure the peace and goodwill of the ancestors. The final day of Saturnalia, known as Floralia, was particularly significant. On this day, families would gather for a communal meal at the tombs, sharing stories and memories of their loved ones. It was a time of both mourning and celebration, as the living honored the dead while also finding comfort in their shared heritage. The rituals of Floralia were a poignant reminder that, for the Romans, death was not an end but a continuation of the family's story. As we reflect on Saturnalia, we gain a deeper understanding of the Romans' profound respect for their ancestors and the importance they placed on family and tradition. This somber yet meaningful festival offers a glimpse into a culture that valued its past as much as its present, finding strength and guidance in the legacy of those who came before. Next, we will explore Floralia, the culmination of Saturnalia, and its focus on appeasing the spirits of the dead through offerings and prayers, bringing this ancient tradition to a powerful close. Now, as we step into the final chapter of Parentalia, we encounter Floralia, a day that brought the solemn festival to a poignant and meaningful close. Floralia, observed on the 21st of February, was the culmination of 9 days of remembrance, a time when the living sought to honor and appease the spirits of their ancestors in a deeply symbolic way. On this day, families would gather once more at the tombs of their loved ones, but the tone shifted slightly from quiet reflection to a more communal and ritualistic atmosphere. Offerings of food, wine, and flowers were placed at the graves, not just as tokens of respect but as a way to nourish and comfort the spirits. The Romans believed that these offerings would ensure the goodwill of the dead, preventing them from becoming restless or displeased. It was a delicate balance between reverence and practicality, as the living sought to maintain harmony with those who had passed on. One of the most striking rituals of Floralia involved the sharing of a communal meal at the tombs. Families would sit together, eating and drinking in the presence of their ancestors, as if inviting them to partake in the feast. This act of sharing was deeply symbolic, reinforcing the idea that the dead remained an integral part of the family, even in the afterlife. Stories and memories of the deceased were exchanged, creating a bridge between generations and keeping their legacies alive. Prayers also played a central role in Floralia. Families would offer heartfelt supplications to the spirits, asking for their continued protection and guidance. These prayers were not just about appeasement but also about gratitude, acknowledging the sacrifices and wisdom of those who had come before. The Romans saw this as a way to ensure that the family's fortunes would endure, drawing strength from the past to face the challenges of the future. The atmosphere of Floralia was one of both solemnity and connection. While it was a time to mourn and remember, it was also a celebration of the enduring bonds that tied families together across generations. The rituals of Floralia served as a powerful reminder that, for the Romans, death was not an end but a continuation of the family's story, a thread woven into the fabric of their identity. As we reflect on Floralia, we see how this final day of Parentalia encapsulated the Romans' profound respect for their ancestors and their belief in the enduring power of family. It was a day that brought closure to the festival while also reinforcing the timeless connection between the living and the dead, a theme that resonates even in our modern world. With this, we conclude our journey through the 25 forgotten festivals of the ancient Romans, each one offering a unique glimpse into a culture that celebrated life, honored the past, and found meaning in the rituals that bound them together. And so, we reach the end of our journey through the 25 forgotten festivals of the ancient Romans. From the joyous revelry of Saturnalia to the solemn rituals of Floralia, each festival offers a window into the rich tapestry of Roman life, revealing a culture deeply rooted in tradition, spirituality, and community. These celebrations were not just moments of festivity but profound expressions of the values that shaped Roman society: honor, gratitude, connection, and a reverence for both the divine and the human experience. Through these festivals, we see how the Romans marked the passage of time, celebrated the cycles of nature, and honored the gods, their ancestors, and one another. They remind us that even in a world vastly different from our own, the human desire to find meaning, connection, and joy remains universal. These ancient traditions, though long forgotten by many, continue to echo in the ways we celebrate, remember, and come together today. As we reflect on these festivals, it's fascinating to consider how many of their themes and rituals have influenced modern celebrations. From the echoes of Saturnalia in Christmas to the traces of Lupercalia in Valentine's Day, the legacy of these ancient customs lives on, often in ways we might not even realize. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Roman history, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which festival intrigued you the most? Do you see any parallels between these ancient traditions and the way we celebrate today? Let's keep the conversation going. And if you're eager to dive deeper into the world of ancient Rome, be sure to check out the links in the description for more fascinating resources. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a journey into the mysteries of the past. Thanks for joining me on this adventure through the forgotten festivals of the ancient Romans. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep celebrating the stories that connect us across time.